If the housing market's about to crash, why are South Dakota prices still rising? And why are local buyers still winning in the long term? The truth is, national headlines don't fit what's really happening. You've saved, you've shopped, and you've done everything right. And now you're finally ready to buy your first home here in South Dakota. But maybe you've heard the whisper. What if the market crashes right after you buy? Okay, it's a fair question and a smart one to ask because while no one can predict the market perfectly, we can understand how it behaves and how to protect ourselves if things get bumpy. Hang around with me and I'll walk you through three things. The first, what the worst case could actually look like. Two, what's far more likely to happen here in South Dakota. And three, how to bulletproof your decision before and after you buy. Let's make sure you don't end up upside down, even if the headlines do turn negative. All right, let's start with the nightmare scenario. Not because it's likely, but because being prepared always beats being surprised. In a severe housing crash, home values could fall 15 to 25% over several years. Some homeowners might owe more than what their homes are worth. That's what we call negative equity. So what actually happens if this occurs? And just so you know, this is applicable in all states, not just South Dakota. Here's the truth. If you keep making your mortgage payments, nothing changes with your loan. Your bank or investor can't call the loan due just because your home's market value drops. The mortgage is secured by the property, but its balance doesn't reprice every month. Only your payment history matters here. You'll still make the same monthly payment you agreed to at the closing. The only real problem comes if you need to sell or refinance while your equity is in the negative, because you'd have to bring money to the closing table or wait until the values recover. That's what made the recession in 2008 so painful for many homeowners. People lost jobs or had to move suddenly, forcing them to sell when prices were still down. Back then, some areas like parts of Florida, Nevada, and Michigan saw 25 to 40% value declines that took nearly a decade to recover from. Foreclosures spiked, city budgets shrank, and refinancing became harder. It's a tough cycle, and no one wants to relive it. But here's the cliffhanger. Could that actually happen to us here in South Dakota? A more realistic outcome here would be a modest correction, maybe 5 to 10% declines in certain areas. In my opinion, that's certainly not a collapse. We'd see slower value appreciation, not a steep plunge into the upside down. Sellers would experience longer selling timelines, not a completely frozen market. Now, some market cooling might appear on the outskirts of the cities or in the higher end price tiers, while some of the core Sioux Falls and Rapid City neighborhoods could remain stable or even rise modestly. South Dakota's housing growth has been and is remaining steady, not speculative. We don't have the activity that's fueled the true crashes in the other markets we just talked about. There aren't rows of empty condos or speculative or spec homes that are typical of overbuilds. There's not a frenzy of investors flipping new builds overnight. Now, for comparison, at the height of the 2008 crash, overbuilt markets like Las Vegas, parts of Florida, had vacancy rates above 15%. Here, the current statewide vacancy is half of that. Back then, those areas had upwards of 12 months of housing inventory. And if you remember from many of my videos, keep in mind, South Dakota's at a healthy 4 months of inventory today. Now, the amount of building permits goes in unison with the state's growing population and the state's expansion of employment opportunity. Some of those areas we had highlighted during the 2008 crash were putting up homes at a record pace, like thousands of homes more than the population could actually support. So, in short, yes, prices here could flatten, cool, just a little. But a true crash, statistically speaking, it's highly unlikely. Now, remember that question from the start? How national headlines scream crash. But our South Dakota numbers, they tell a different story. Our numbers show that we have not overproduced. This is where that difference really shows up. So, if the world isn't ending, what should you actually do before you buy? Welcome back here. I like to talk strategy, so let's start. You can't control the market, you can control your position. Take note of some of the ways to bulletproof your purchase and financial position, starting with buying conservative. Don't borrow to the top of your approval limit. Give yourself some breathing room in your monthly budget. Remember, there's a lot of life happening in between your mortgage payments each month. Then I'd suggest keeping a safety cushion. Now, what does that mean? We're talking about anywhere from 6 to 12 months of your monthly mortgage payment sitting and readily available in a deposit account, checking, savings, whatever works best for you. This makes you shock proof. When you're considering areas or homes for your purchase, choose a resilient location. Focus on strong school districts, stable neighborhoods, and homes with consistent demand, even in slower markets. Next, understand your county's tax cycle. Counties like Minnehaha and Pennington County reassess frequently. Know how that could affect your future tax bill. Then lock in with a smart, predictable finance. What I'm trying to say is stick with fixed rates. Avoid the teaser loans or adjustable rate products that could balloon later. Then I really like this idea. Stress testing your plan. Play out a scenario where if your rate rises 1%, does that higher loan payment shock the pocketbook? I'd say if you can still sleep at night after looking at that higher payment, you're probably buying smart. Okay, if you're still watching, this next part is where the smart decisions really pay off because it's about what to do after you buy if the market ever softens. Right back to the topic at hand. Let's say you've already bought and now prices start to cool. What should you do? First and foremost, do not panic sell. Real estate is long term by nature. Historically, homeowners who simply held on almost always recover, and often faster than they expect. Second, use the tools available to you. If rates drop, refinance to lower your payment. If you've been able to handle your monthly payment with some relative ease and you have some excess cash flow, consider paying a little more toward principal each month in order to build equity faster. If your income changes, you have to consider being versatile with your time and assets. Consider renting out a room or the property temporarily to ease cash flow. A part-time job can help close the gap created by the change in income. Third, invest wisely, not emotion. Make improvements to your home, your asset that protects its value. Updates or upgrades to kitchens, bathrooms, and improving the property's overall curb appeal, those go a long way. Track local comparable properties and tax changes so you're never blindsided by that tax bill. And if your tax bill spikes after reassessment, appeal it. That's your right. Finally, protect your credit and liquidity. Your credit score and cash reserves are your lifelines in any downturn. Avoid big new debts or any risky spending. In every past housing correction, the people who got hurt the most were over leveraged and unprepared, while those who stayed patient, disciplined, and liquid came out stronger. So, could the housing market drop after you buy? Sure, markets rise and fall all of the time. But here, we've always been fortunate and somewhat insulated. We're not overbuilt. There's not an incredible amount of speculative homes sitting vacant. With this in mind, the odds of a crash are low, and the tools to stay protected are completely within your control. Okay, buy smart, keep reserves, stay informed. You don't need to time the market, you just need to prepare for it. Because at the end of the day, homeownership isn't about perfect timing, it's about long term stability. So next time you see another national headline predicting a crash, remember South Dakota doesn't play by those rules. Our story isn't panic, it's preparedness. Hey guys, if this breakdown helped give you perspective, hit like, subscribe, drop a comment below. Let me know what's your biggest concern about today's housing market. And if you'd like help running your personal stress test before you buy, I'd be happy to walk you through it.